If you've just got your new Google Pixel 10, this is the video for you. Today, I'll be showing you the first 25 things you need to do to get the most out of your Pixel 10. Now, these tips and tricks will unlock hidden new features, preserve battery health, and improve performance. Let's jump in. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is an essential day one system update, as out of the box a system update will be required to get the newest Android 16 and Pixel 10 features. Basically, if your settings screen looks like the phone here on the left, you will need to do an update where it will look like the phone on the right with the more colorful settings icon. Believe me, this will make this video a lot easier to follow. So to see if you have to do an update, we're going to jump into settings and scroll down here to where we find system. Then tap on to software updates, and in here tap on system update. And if you need to do an update, I recommend you do this now before we get started. Perfect. So with that done, let's go ahead and get started. First, I want to show you a really essential security feature to turn on that I can't believe is not on by default, and that is called theft protection. So to do this, we're going to jump into settings and then scroll down to where we find security and privacy. And then in here, we're going to tap onto device unlock, scroll all the way to the bottom to where we find theft protection. Now in here, first of all, you want to make sure that the first two settings are turned on: theft detection locked and offline device detection lock. These two are really important. So what these do, the first option is going to automatically lock your phone if your Pixel 10 detects that it has been quickly taken out of your hand. The accelerometer and gyroscope can detect this motion. As a result, it will then lock the phone to make sure your data is safe. Secondly, it will also lock your phone if your phone is ever taken offline. Like for example, if the SIM card is removed, or say the battery is removed, or it's tinkered with in any way, it will automatically lock your phone again to protect your data. But that's just step one. Step two is, if we scroll down, we have remote lock and find and erase your device. And you want to make sure that both of these settings here are turned on. Why? Well, this allows your phone to show up in Google's Find Hub application. Let me show you what this looks like. So if we go to your app drawer here, you want to search for Find Hub right here. That's the icon you want to look for. And in this application, if we go ahead and authenticate, you will find all of your devices associated with your account, including your Pixel 10 here. And what we can do is tap into that and tap onto settings. And from here, we can remotely lock the device or even wipe it entirely to preserve our data, even if our phone is lost or stolen. Of course, you can also locate your phone on the map up here. This is if your phone is lost, to hopefully relocate it. But again, if it is stolen, most important is that within this application, you'll be able to wipe your phone completely, meaning that even when your phone is no longer safe, your data still can be. Now, it is important to note that the Find Hub application is not just accessible on your phone. Of course, if your phone is stolen, you don't have access, so you can go to the Find Hub website on any device, including a computer or other phone, to perform these actions and ensure your phone is safe. And now I want to talk about the battery, specifically checking your battery health by looking at the number of cycles that it has gone through. In other words, how many times has it been fully charged and fully depleted? This number will determine your battery health, which is important to know if you're buying a phone new, but especially if you're buying one used, or just to see the condition of your battery in general. So to do this, we're going to go into settings, scroll all the way down to about this phone, and then scroll down once more to where we find battery information. And in here, you will find your cycle count. Now, if your battery is new or your phone is new, you'd want the cycle count to be very low, like mine is. If you are buying a phone used, ideally you want a cycle count that is below the 200 to 300 mark, as once you get above this point, it is usually a good idea to replace the battery, just thinking about the battery health. So ideally, the lower the count, the better if you're buying a phone used. And again, if you're buying one new, you want the cycle count to be very low. Otherwise, you may want to return it for a new phone. Great, so now that we know how to check your battery health, why don't we take a look at a battery saving tip and trick, and that has to do with notifications. So the number of notifications that you have coming into your phone every day really adds up and has a huge impact on your battery life. Every time a notification comes in, right, your speaker goes off, your vibration motor goes off, and your screen will turn on. And this really adds up if you have dozens or maybe even 100+ notifications coming in each day. So my suggestion is to audit the number of notifications that you allow. And to do this, we're going to go into settings, tap onto notifications, then app notifications. And in here, you want to change most recent over to all apps, and this will give you manual control over every application and system function to determine whether you want to allow notifications from it or not. By default, most of these, if not all, will be turned on. I recommend you turn off a bunch. I probably have half of mine off. I turn off things like shopping apps, games, utility apps, and I keep on important things like messaging apps, finance apps, things like this. This way, I get a lot less notifications throughout the day. This saves me a lot of battery and is also good for your mental health because, well, you'll be distracted less throughout the day with useless notifications. Okay, so one of my favorite features of the Pixel 10 is that it has a super smooth 120 Hz refresh rate display. However, frustratingly, out of the box, this is not on by default and your phone will run at just 60 Hz, which honestly is disappointing, but there is a setting that we can activate to bring in that 120 Hz refresh rate. And to do this, we're going to jump into settings and then scroll down to display and touch, scroll all the way to the bottom. Google has really hidden this feature, and here you will find smooth display, and you want to make sure that there is turned on. This is going to make everything you do on your screen, whether you're swiping through different menus, opening, closing apps, playing games, especially, a whole lot smoother, and I definitely recommend you turn this on. So now that we know how to make the display better, let's make your Pixel 10 faster. Now bear with me, there's a couple of steps here, but I'll walk you through it one by one. And what we're going to do is we're going to jump into settings, and then from here we're going to scroll all the way down to where we find about this phone, and then scroll all the way down once more to where we find build number. Now here what you want to do is tap on build number 5 times in a row quickly, and you will unlock a hidden menu called developer options. Now this hidden menu can be found if we go back and then scroll up slightly and tap into system, where here we now have a new menu called developer options, and this is where we're going to find this feature. So what we're going to do is scroll through here. This is a long list, about 2/3 of the way down, all the way down here to the drawing section. You can see about 2/3 of the way down on this menu to where we have window animation scale, transition animation scale, and animator duration scale. Now by default, all 3 of these are going to be set to 1x, but you're going to set each of these to 0.5x, and check out what this does. If I now close this application, look at how fast that happened. If I open up my app switcher, look at how quickly I can cycle between apps on my phone. The phone just feels extra fast, extra fluid, and snappy, and all it basically does is just shorten the length of the duration of those transitions. You can also choose to turn them off entirely. That's something I personally don't like to do. I think 0.5 is the sweet spot, as you can still see those apps move, but as you can see, they are flying. And as a result, it really makes your Pixel 10 faster to use and to operate. And let me know in the comments, have you ever used a Pixel phone before, or is the Pixel 10 your first Pixel phone? And if you are enjoying this video so far, a like and a sub to the channel would be amazing. Next, I want to show you a really useful feature that applies not just to the Pixel 10, but also the 10 Pro, and of course, the larger 10 Pro XL. And I'm talking about one-handed mode, where if you're using your phone in one hand, this will make it much easier to reach the top of the display, say your URL bar in your browser, and this will allow you to really enjoy using your phone with one hand in a much better way. But there is a feature, or rather a setting, that we first need to activate to unlock this feature, and to do this, we are going to jump into settings. And then on the main page of settings, scroll all the way down to system, then tap onto gestures. And in here we have one-handed mode, and you want to make sure that there is turned on. Now to activate one-handed mode, all you want to do is do a small swipe gesture down, as you can see along the bottom of the display. That will effectively shrink everything down, making it super easy to reach those top buttons, or also things like, say, your system toggles and notification shade as well. So really, really useful feature when, say, you're walking down a busy road and you're trying to use your phone with one hand. And now I want to talk about multitasking tips and tricks, as multitasking on the Pixel 10 is a great experience and perfect if you want to get more functionality and productivity out of your phone. So first of all, to enter split screen multitasking, what you want to do is have any application open up the app switcher, tap on the app icon, and then we're going to tap onto split screen. And here you can select a second application to have open at the same time. So here I've got a Chrome window on the top, I'm watching a YouTube, or rather YouTube on the top watching a YouTube video, and then a Chrome window here along the bottom. And what I can do is also double tap the little bar in the middle to rearrange the orientation to quickly swap them over. I can also tap and drag to assign more screen space to one versus the other. This here is a really, really great feature. I think gives you so much extra functionality out of your phone. And again, it is super intuitive and works with pretty much all applications. Now, what is especially cool is if you find yourself using split screen often, you can actually save a pair, an app pair like this to your home screen. So to do this, you want to have two apps open like this, and then we're going to open up the app switcher, tap on either app icon, and then you can tap onto save app pair. And as you can see on the home screen, we now have a new icon where every time we tap this icon, it'll open up an app pair just like we had before, in this case between YouTube and Chrome. So really useful feature and allows you to get extra functionality out of your Pixel 10. And now let's dive into the camera, where I want to show you some essential settings to change that allow you to take even better photos and videos on your Pixel 10. So the first thing we're going to do is jump into the camera application, where here we're going to tap on the little settings icon, make sure you are in photo mode. And in here, the first thing we can choose to do is to turn on or off night sight or the flash. So which do you want your phone to prioritize if you are in a low light situation? Now, I definitely recommend you choose night sight, as this is not going to disturb others by using a bright flash and often results in a better image too. Now, if you are not in a low light scenario, so you have to turn this off temporarily, we can go into motion photo and adjust these settings here. Now, motion photo, if you're not sure what this is, it's essentially going to capture a couple of frames before and after every photo you take and record just a little bit of sound as well. This means you really capture the moment better when you're taking a photo, and I can tell you that reliving memories, going through old photos, it's just more fun this way because it feels like you're a little bit there. It's almost like you've got short videos instead of just still images with every photo that you take. So I definitely recommend you turn this feature on, motion photo, either set it to auto or to on like I have here. And then to dive deeper, we'll tap on this three-dot menu, where first of all, we can turn on or off the camera sounds. We can then also choose to have a grid on or off. I like to have the 3x3 rule of thirds grid. This is great for the frame composition and aligning your shots. And beneath that, we also have, if we scroll down here, quick access controls. This will allow you to tap the viewfinder once or the preview when you're taking a photo to quickly adjust things like your white balance or brightness by simply adjusting a slider with your finger. This is very useful. I definitely recommend you turn this on as well. And then lastly, we have here Ultra HDR. Now, HDR, if you don't know what that is, basically in short, it's going to allow for more dynamic range. It's going to give you more detail in the brighter and darker parts of your image, which is good. However, also makes your photos, well, really bright. So I don't know if you're ever scrolling late at night through Instagram and all your posts are very, dimly lit like your screen is, but then suddenly a really bright picture comes up. Well, chances are that's probably an HDR picture. So love it or hate it, some people like it, others don't. I personally keep it on for photos, but turn it off for videos, and this here is a setting to do that. Now, lastly, if we scroll down here, we have RAW and JPEG control. Now, this is a setting, first of all, that I recommend everyone turn on because this will enable a hidden feature within your camera app. So if we go back here and tap on the same settings menu here, now we have a new menu added called RAW and JPEG, where we can actually choose to take RAW photos or JPEG photos. Now, by default, it'll take JPEG photos. These are smaller in size and will be best for most occasions. However, if you do want to take RAW pictures to capture more color data and ultimately give you more flexibility in post and have better quality photos, you can choose to switch it to RAW. Something I recommend, for example, for special occasions, but because these will be larger in size, most of the time JPEG will be fine. But I recommend you enable that option to give you that control here. And now let's switch over to video mode, where I've got a few really essential settings to show you. The first one here, if we tap into settings, is to change your resolution, as by default, for some reason, the Pixel 10 is set to just 1080p, while it actually has a 4K camera. So it is capable of recording 4K video. I think 4K gives you a much better quality image. The video you're looking at right now is in 4K, and I really think it has become the new standard, even for more casual use. It just gives you so much more detail. So definitely recommend you switch over to 4K from HD. Secondly, we also have the frame rate, which I recommend you keep at 30 unless you're going to be intentionally slowing that footage down, in which case you can switch it over to 60, but 30 really is the way to go. And then here again, we have 10-bit HDR, so just like in photo, you can choose to turn this off or on. Again, I have it off for video, but whether you want that is up to you. And then we're going to tap onto this three-dot menu where I've got a couple more settings to show you. So if we scroll down here from photo to where we find video mode right here, first of all, we can turn on or off audio zoom. This I recommend you turn off, as it's going to result in your mic levels changing as you zoom. And then secondly is auto FPS, another one I suggest you turn off. If you're editing this video or even just viewing this video, it's great. You just want to have a stable frame rate. You don't want that changing while you're watching your video. So make sure that these two here are turned off. Okay, so those are the key settings both for video and photo mode to make the camera on your Pixel 10 even better. And now from camera, let's go back to battery health, more specifically increasing your battery health and ultimately helping your Pixel 10 last longer. So there's a really important setting that we want to activate, or a feature that is called charging optimization. But first we need to do this in settings. So to do this, we're going to jump into settings, and then we are going to scroll to where we find battery right over here. And then we're going to tap onto battery health, then tap onto charging optimization, and make sure that this here is turned on. Now, we have two different types of charging optimization, both adaptive as well as limit to 80%. And I recommend most people, including myself, use adaptive charging. So what does this do? Well, let's say you plug your phone in at night, every night at around 10 p.m. Let's say you have 5% remaining. It's first going to charge from 5% up to 80%, but then wait with the remaining 20% till closer to when you typically wake up and unplug your phone, let's say at 6:30. Why is this important? Well, this is going to stagger the charge, so it won't charge your phone as fast, and that's going to produce less heat, and heat is the #1 factor for killing your battery health. So if you can limit that, especially overnight when your phone doesn't need to charge fast, it is a big plus, and it's going to help your phone last longer. Now, the second option, limit to 80%, really is only for the battery health saving diehards, where your phone simply won't charge beyond 80%. So you do sacrifice 20% of your battery capacity, which for me is too big a sacrifice. It might not be for you, but for most, I think adaptive charging is the way to go because it gives you the best of both worlds. And then to turn on your battery percentage within your icon here, we can go back one page, then go back once more and turn on battery percentage, where as you can see, we'll now see the battery percentage to always know what our battery level is at. And now I want to talk about customizing the lock screen. As there's so many different options on your Pixel 10, I think it's a wonderful way to really make your phone your own, and a few cool tips and tricks that I want to show you here as well. So first of all, in settings, we're going to tap onto wallpaper and style, and here we can edit both the lock screen as well as the home screen. First of all, let's look at the lock screen here, where the first thing we can do is we can go into our clock. We can change the clock, so we've got a bunch of different ones to choose from. Some are animated, some are not. And depending on the clock, you can also change things like the color as well as the size. So if, say, you have a wallpaper of a loved one, you may not want their face covered in a clock or with a clock, so you can do that as well. I quite like this default, and you can change the width from there. On the subject of the lock screen, we can also set system shortcuts, and those are these little buttons here, or controls, that you have on your lock screen, and I really recommend you do so. You can set one for the left as well as the right side. This is a great way to get some quick functionality even when your phone is locked. So I have things like my do not disturb, but we can change this to, for example, your camera, wallets, whatever it may be, and you can do the same here on the right, or you can turn them off. But again, I think this is a really useful feature that I suggest you have on. And then let's swipe over to the home screen. So just on the right from the lock screen, we're going to go to the home screen, where I want to show you how to turn on themed icons. And this is a really fun way to customize the look and feel of your phone. So in here, we're going to tap onto icons, and then you can turn on themed icons. And as you can see, let's go ahead and turn this on here. All of my icons now become blue to kind of match the color of my system here, as well as my wallpaper. And as you can see, this gives a really unique look to your Pixel phone, very different from other phones. All the icons are neatly in sync. Now, unfortunately, not every third-party app like Amazon here will support it, but most definitely do. And as you can see, it gives you a very clean look. Although it can be a little bit tricky at first to find your apps, it does take only a couple days to get used to. And next, I want to show you how to get more space on your home screen. So if we tap onto layout here within the same menu, we can actually change the size of the icons as well as your widgets, where to even to small, where as you can see, we now have a lot more space on our home screen, allowing us to have more apps today if you have a lot of frequent apps that you use, and even have more widgets as well to give you more functionality on your home screen. Alternatively, you can also make it larger to make it easier to find those icons, if say you can't find your apps, but small here is going to give you more space on your home screen. And now I want to take a moment to look at Gemini, as Gemini is one of the most powerful features of your Pixel 10 that I really encourage you to unlock and try. And I'll show you some tips and tricks as well. But before we can do that, you first need to set up Gemini. So what you want to do is open up your Pixel 10 here, and then we're going to search for an app called Gemini. Right here, tap into it, and the first time you open Gemini, you'll have to allow for some permission, so we can go ahead and use Gemini, and then eventually you'll get to this screen here where Gemini is now ready to use. Now let me go ahead and show you some really cool tips and tricks within Gemini. And the first thing I want to show you is how to have a live conversation with Gemini. And to activate this, we're going to tap on this 3-line menu here on the bottom right, and let's see. Hey Gemini, how often should I take my Pomeranian to the groomers?
Generally, every 4 to 6 weeks is a good rule of thumb to keep their coat healthy and tangle-free. What's your routine like?
Great. So as you can see, you can then have a live conversation with Gemini. After you finish your talk, it will also give you a transcription, which is great if you want to copy that or refer back to it later. And what is also cool is Gemini will have memory, so it will know if you refer back to previous conversations that you had. So I find this to be a really useful feature, really interactive, and a great way to just learn more about a given subject and then also ask follow-up questions, which is something that many AI or smart assistants like it aren't able to do, not in this way. And then to take this one step further, we can also give Gemini access to our camera to learn more about anything we point our camera at. So to do this, we're going to tap on the same three-dot menu. And then once the conversation is started, we'll tap onto camera. And as you can see, my back camera is currently sharing. And let's say, hey, Gemini, what bottle of cologne is this? And where can I buy it?
That's Diptyque Eau de Menthe. It's a lovely fresh scent. You can usually find it at department stores like Nordstrom or Saks Fifth Avenue, or online through Diptyque's website. Are you looking for the eau de parfum or something else?
And this is great. So you can imagine this is great if you're looking for a product or you're trying to identify a species of bird or maybe an ingredient in a shop. You want to know what to cook with it, right? Things like that. Or you can even ask it about your outfits as well, something my wife has tried. So a really fun feature to have built into Gemini. And to take this even further, you can also share your screen with Gemini. So to do this, we're going to enter the call mode once more, the live mode, and then we're going to tap on the little arrow and share the entire screen. And now Gemini sees my screen and I can ask it about anything on screen. So for example, within this YouTube video here, let's see right here. So I'm playing a game in this video and I can ask, hey Gemini, what game is being played in this video?
That's Minecraft you're playing. Do you need help with anything else?
Great, so that's really cool. So a great way to learn more about anything that you have on screen, and in this case, to learn more about a game that's being played within one of my videos. And next, I want to show you how to change your navigation bar. So first, let me show you how to change it and then why I recommend you do so. So to do this, we're going to jump into settings, then go into display and touch, and then scroll down to where we find navigation mode. Now here we can change to the default 3-button navigation layout. This is something you may be used to if you're more of an old school Android user. But we can also change over to the gesture navigation, which gives you just one small bar. Now, I think both of these are great and I can make strong arguments for either. However, personally, I prefer to use the gesture navigation mode, and let me tell you why. So first of all, I like how minimalistic it is. Compared to the 3 buttons, this only takes up a tiny bit of your screen space, which is especially great if you're reading articles or going through sets of menus like this. And secondly, I find the gestures to go home or open up your app switcher to be so intuitive and fluid and fast to operate. And then thirdly is you actually get some functionality with the gesture menu that you won't find with those buttons, and that is to be able to swipe to the left and right to go between your different open apps on your Pixel phone. I find this to be great for multitasking and quickly switching between 2 apps. So that's something that you can't do with the buttons, and only if you choose to switch to navigation mode. And next, I want to show you how to customize the power button here on the right-hand side of your phone. And to do this, what we're going to do is we're going to jump into settings, scroll all the way down to where we find system right over here. Then tap onto gestures. And here there's 2 settings we're going to change. First of all is double press power button, and we can choose to turn this on or off. I suggest you turn this on. It's a great way to quickly bring up your camera or wallet if you choose. I have mine set to camera. And then secondly, if we go back, we also have press and hold power button, where here we can choose to either bring up your digital assistant, so Gemini, or we can choose to show the power menu, and we can even change the duration. So personally, I like to have this set to digital assistant, and I'll set the duration to a little bit shorter to make this action even faster. Next, I want to show you some tips and tricks pertaining to the call function of this, phone. And the first has to do with spam calls, more specifically a feature that you have built into your Pixel 10 that's going to drastically limit the amount of spam calls that actually come in and ring your phone and bother you throughout the day. No one likes this. So to do this, we're going to jump into the phone app, and then we're going to tap on this 3-dot menu and then tap onto settings. And then in here, the first option, caller ID and spam, you want to make sure to turn on filter spam calls. This way, when a call comes in, the number will first be run through many databases and lists that Google has. And if it is found to likely be a spam call, the call will be blocked. Your phone won't even ring to begin with. This is a fantastic feature that I definitely recommend you turn on. But then for those you do want to have a call with, in order to enable better call quality, we do have a setting that we can enable that will help reduce the background noise and make it easier for the other person to hear your voice, say over a construction site, by a busy road or traffic or whatever it may be. And to do this, we're going to jump into settings, and then tap onto sound and vibration. And then in here, we are going to scroll to where we find clear calling. And then you want to make sure that that there is turned on. On the subject of sound and vibration, there's one more feature that I really suggest you turn on, especially if you often have your phone on silent like I do. So if we go back one page here, we can then scroll up to where we find vibration and haptics, tap into that, and here we can turn on, first of all, vibrate first and then ring gradually. So let's say you have your phone on silent, you're in one room and your phone is in another. Of course, it's not in your pocket, so you won't be able to feel if a call comes in. So your phone will first ring on silent, but if you're not answering that call, it will then gradually start to turn on the speaker and actually ring so that you can hear it if, say, you're in another room. So this is a very, very useful feature. And then secondly, I also recommend you turn on adaptive vibration right here. So with this feature on, what it's essentially going to do is listen to your ambient environment, and depending on how loud it is, it will determine the intensity of the vibration. So if it's quiet at night, it won't vibrate very heavily, but if you are, say, in a train or you're commuting or whatever it is, and it's noisier, the vibration intensity will be increased. You're more likely to feel it in your pocket, and again, not miss that important call. Now, this next tip and trick has to do more with the hardware than software, and that is that a new feature of the Pixel 10 series, both the 10 and 10 Pro, is called Pixel Snap. Now, Pixel Snap essentially comes with built-in magnets, a little bit like MagSafe on iPhone. Who am I kidding? Exactly like MagSafe on iPhone, so much so that your MagSafe accessories will work on your Pixel phone. So this includes things like chargers. This is great because if you're wirelessly charging, you don't need to surgically align your phone to start charging. Instead, as you can see, you can have the charger on a desk and kind of drop it into place and it will automatically connect. This is wonderful. But secondly, you also have some really unique and useful accessories like wallets and stands. So right here, I have the invisible tripod stand from Moft, and check this out. We can just go ahead and attach this to the back. Now, this accessory was actually made for iPhone, but because Pixel Snap and MagSafe are basically the same, this will work just fine on your Pixel 2, and that will allow you to instantly prop up your phone. You can even move it to landscape. This is great to capture videos. For video calls, this is great as well, or simply watching stuff on your phone. You can also reset it to set it into a lower angle, and then you have a little slot here for a card or two in the back as well. So all attaches magnetically. Really, really great. I think Pixel Snap is one of my favorite features of these Pixel 10 phones, and I really encourage you to go out and get some MagSafe or Pixel Snap accessories to get more out of this functionality. By the way, I'll leave the link to this particular accessory down in the description. And now I want to show you what remains to be one of my most used AI features on the Pixel 10, and that is Circle to Search, where as you can see, you can highlight anything on screen to learn more about it through Google or do an image search or product search right from your screen. But to enable this feature, we first need to enable this in settings. And to do this, what we're going to do is tap onto settings, and then over on the main page of settings, we're going to scroll down to where we find display and touch, and then tap onto navigation mode. And in here, you want to make sure that Circle to Search is turned on. Now, as you can see in Photos, I can go ahead and tap and hold on the home bar and then simply circle anything that's on screen. This doesn't just work on photos. This works on YouTube videos, on your maps, wherever it may be, anywhere on your phone. You can then circle to learn more. Now, something that very few people know about is that the Pixel 10 actually has a free built-in VPN. So first, let me show you where to find this and how to activate this. So to do this, we're going to go into Settings, tap onto Network and Internet, and then in here, we can tap onto VPN, and then we tap on VPN by Google. We'll go ahead and allow that here. So use VPN on mobile network, that's fine. Go ahead and use VPN. It is now going to take a second to connect and give me a free Google VPN. Now, if you don't know, VPNs are great because they protect your online privacy by masking your IP address, and I think it's really cool to see Google offer this feature to Pixel users for free. So right here in settings, we can go ahead and enable that. You can see we're currently connected, and I can disconnect from there as well if I want to. And this brings us to some really essential emergency and SOS features on the Pixel 10 that you want to make sure are enabled if ever they are needed. So to do this, we're going to go into Settings and then scroll down here to where we find Safety and Emergency. And in here, first of all, you want to make sure that your medical information is up to date. You can add things like health conditions, medications, whatever it may be, and also your emergency contacts. You want to make sure that those two are up to date, as both of these are going to be accessible even when your phone is locked, say by a paramedic or someone who may be helping you when you need it. Now, secondly, we also have emergency SOS, and I recommend you turn this on. This way, if you ever need to call for emergency services in a subtle way, you can simply repeatedly press the power button 5 times in a row, and that then should trigger a call for emergency services, again, in a subtle way if you ever need to. And then there's also Pixel Satellite SOS. Now this here is great if you're, say, an avid outdoorsman or really in a situation where you have no cellular service and you need to get an SOS message across. What you can do is use your Pixel phone to connect to a satellite to send this. And within here, you can also try a demo. You basically have to hold up your phone and angle it specifically and hold it to make contact with that satellite and then be able to send your message even when there's no cell service. Now, next we also have car crash detection. This here is literally life-saving potentially, so you want to make sure that this here is turned on. This will enable your Pixel 10 to detect if you're ever in a car crash. You'll then be prompted on screen to respond, and if you don't, it will then automatically call emergency services with your location on your behalf. So this here in particular is so crucial, and you want to make sure that that is turned on. Of course, hopefully you will never ever need it. Now, if we go back, we also have crisis alerts. This is useful, especially if you are in a part of the world that is more prone to natural disasters, for example, earthquakes, floodings, etc. You want to make sure that crisis alerts there is turned on. So those are some of the most essential, and arguably the most important part of this video is to make sure that those emergency and SOS features are activated and turned on. And well, there you have it. Thank you so much for watching this video. There's the first 25 things that you need to do on your Pixel 10. If you have any questions at all, please leave them down below and I'll do my best to get back to you. And if this video was helpful to you, be sure to leave a like and also subscribe to see more videos like this in the future. Now, if you haven't seen it yet, I've also done a Pixel 10 Pro settings video, which I'll leave linked on screen right now, which dives even deeper into some of the settings that we looked at today. Thank you so much for watching and take care.